What's up, guys, and welcome to the Rebalance podcast, where we dive into topics that matter most when it comes to overcoming struggles, injuries, and finding balance in your life. Everybody's idea of balance is that bit different, so my goal is to give you different perspectives, practical tips, as well as expert insights into what it means to live a balanced life. My name is Robbie Cassidy. I'm a physiotherapist and a health coach, and I've been helping people reignite their love for challenge, overcome their fear, and find more balance in their life through the process of self-development. So, let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. On this episode of the podcast, we are going to look at my morning routine and what I've been doing recently, and the routine that I've been getting into and building over the last couple of weeks and last couple of months in Argentina. I guess the reason I want to talk about this is because hopefully it'll give you different ideas of what you can do. And the thing about it is, with morning routines, you see it everywhere now that there's this perfect one that you have to get in and you have to do it. No, that's not true. I should say that this is probably my morning routine from Monday to Friday. And then on Saturday and Sunday, it changes a small bit depending on what I was at the night before, and also depending on work. Okay, because work is the idea of this morning routine is to help me work better and to get more out of my day, so I can train, I can work, and I can still enjoy my day outside of that. It also, I really feel, helps set me up for the day. Now, there's this argument that you can just get up and go straight into work. If you want it, no problem at all, if that suits you. I just want to give you a different perspective on it. And the thing is, I'm not going to start lying and telling you about all these crazy things that I do, because I think there's a lot of dishonesty with morning routines at the moment. I'll talk through some of the things that I can do now that are available to me, and then I'll mention some of the things that I would like to do, but just they aren't available to me at the moment, or I'm prioritizing them as well. So to jump straight into it, I get up usually around 7 to 8 a.m. Now, I'm finding recently I'm actually getting up closer to 8 o'clock. And the reason being is that based on the habits that I have after I get up, I feel getting up closer to 8 o'clock, because I usually start work at 9, it just helps me flow into it a small bit more. And I'm not waiting around or wasting time doing anything. So I probably have been getting up closer to 8 o'clock, even though my alarm goes off at 7:15 and I hit snooze a couple of times, which is something that I'm really trying to stop. But yeah, closer to 8. When I do get up at that time, if I'm up before 8, I'm nearly always consistent with these exact same habits. And I know that, which is good. And they're the ones I'm going to talk about. The very first one is I usually keep a water bottle beside my bed. Now, a thing that I try to avoid is drinking water late at night, because it helps you, or obviously you're going to be getting up and going to the toilet, and it's going to disrupt your sleep pattern. For me, I just keep a bottle of water beside my bed, so when I get up in the morning, I can start drinking it straight away. And the reason I do this is that I try to take in the morning, it really depends. Maybe if I was being exact, it's probably around about 500 ml to a litre. Like, that's kind of what I look at taking in the hour that I go through my routine. And I find that it's a really easy way to break the barrier for the day. And you're going to hear me talking about this as we go through the podcast, because I think breaking that barrier helps you. It's like a slope, in that it can be a slippery slope in some ways, and it can be a positive one in other ways. But with water, I think if you take on more in the morning, you're more likely to drink it during the day. You've kind of broken that barrier to entry. So I just try to guzzle it a good bit, and then as I go through it, I just keep it beside me. Then I will know straight away in the morning when I get up if I drink enough the day before. One of the big things that stand out for me is if I don't drink enough water in a day, I will always feel that bit drowsier the next morning. If I have drank a lot of water, I find that it's easier to get out of bed the next morning. That's for me and a lot of the clients that I work with. That's something that we often talk about, because if you miss your water, you know it in the morning. I think that's a big sign. If you're really dehydrated, you're slow, you're obviously depending on how you slept and all that as well, but I just feel you're a bit more sluggish in the morning. So I try to get up and drink it straight away. And if I notice that if I miss this, I'm not as likely to drink it as the day goes on. After that, then, what a lot of people will do is they'll jump up and they'll boil the kettle and they'll go straight to try get a coffee or get something into them. I have been trying to avoid this. I've been trying to avoid depending on stimulants to get me going in the morning more so. And there's also this other research, you often hear, let's say, Andrew Huberman talk about it, where if you take it on 90 minutes after waking up, where you wait that 90-minute block, you are supposed to avoid that crash in the afternoon, and it also helps with the normal regulation of your hormones in the morning. So I have been trying to do that. I find it works very well for me, and it's worth trying, see how it feels to you. The other thing is that usually the afternoon I don't have the opportunity to crash because jiu-jitsu out here starts at around about 1 o'clock. So when I get up, or when come the afternoon, I never really get a nap in anyway. I have to nap when I come back, which we won't talk about too much now because it's usually like 4 o'clock in the day, and I often argue against that, but training hard, so I get that it doesn't affect my sleep too much, or I haven't found it affects my sleep too much. Waiting that 90 minutes after waking to take in coffee is I find is helping me a lot, because it just gives me time to get my energy, to get my wits about me. And then when I'm sitting into work, I love a coffee in the morning. Like, it's one of my favorite parts of the morning, realistically. And I love when I'm sitting into work and I have it beside me and I can start sipping on it, because then straight away I know once you start feeling it kicking in, you get that bit more of a buzz off it, a bit more of a jump off it as well. And I think you feel the benefits of it that bit more when you've already woken up. The next one then is I look to get outside on the balcony to try get a bit of sunlight in. Now, the sun usually doesn't come over the buildings around me until around about 8:30. What I try to do instead is just sit out, take a couple of breaths and look at the street, look at people walking by, a bit of people watching, and then look at the sky to try to take it in. The other side of this is that I usually sit out and I read on the balcony as well. I find that helps me get into the routine, and it's been working perfectly while it's been summertime. We'll see if I continue that routine as it goes into winter here, because it's definitely getting that bit colder, no question. Sitting out on the balcony and trying to get a bit of sunlight in has really helped for me. Something that I probably should include, but I haven't been doing as much, is going out for a walk in the morning. It's really, really good way of waking you up and getting you ready for the day. And it definitely works for a lot of people, but I find that it's not fitting into my routine to go out and go for a walk in the morning recently. I find that this works better for me because I do a lot of walking later in the day, when I walk to jits, or when I walk and meet, let's say, mates to go for dinner and stuff like that. So I haven't been getting out and doing a walk in the morning. A lot of people will argue against that. Oh, you should be getting out and you should be exercising and all this in the morning. Grand, if it works for you. I'm only talking about what I'm doing honestly on a day to day. To try get sunlight in as early as possible after I wake up, and I try get at least 10 minutes, but as you hear me talk about my reading routine, I usually get 30 to 40 minutes of it anyway. There's a lot of benefits to sunlight. Why did I say get it in the morning? Well, the idea is that it sets your circadian rhythm for the next day. When you get that sunlight in the morning, your body wakes up a bit more, and then after sunset in the evening, you start to get lower levels of alertness, or your alertness lowers, and it's easier to go to bed at night. The other side of it is you actually feel a lot more alive. Like getting sunlight, you feel so much better. It's not as easy as well in Ireland and in England, or wherever people are listening to this. I know a lot of people in the States are listening to this as well. It's not as easy to get it in Ireland and England. States, you probably get away with it a bit more. Even if you get out and you just keep an eye on the cloud cover, it still helps out. It still helps you that bit more. Okay, so just looking at the sky can suffice. It's not that you look directly at the sun. That would be madness. And anyone that does that, you're a lunatic. Just getting 10 minutes in really, really helps. I've been reading recently. I've been using a Kindle to read. And what I do is I aim for like 30 to 40 minutes. Sit out on the balcony, as I said, in the sun, pop the feet up, bottle of water beside me. And I really enjoy this. This is probably my favorite part of the morning. And it's something that I have been getting to every day. Maybe not on a Saturday, I'd say, depending if I was out on a Friday. But in general, every day I try to get out and sit in the balcony and just go reading. 30 to 40 minutes. I think it just really helps with concentration early in the day. And it helps to kind of set your focus and set your way of thinking. You're not all over the place. It's a nice single point of focus. It's a nice thing to just help you ease your way into the day. And it obviously depends on what you read. For me right now, I'm currently reading Poor Charlie's Almanac. It's Charlie Munger. He's Warren Buffett's partner, let's say. He's not as wealthy as Warren Buffett because he gave it all away, but the two of them started Berkshire Hathaway. Very, very interesting book to read. It's not exactly just an investment book. What it sounds like, it's really good for mental models, ways of thinking, and just ways of approaching a situation. And that's what I love about it at the moment. So if anyone is going to read it, I would definitely say check it out. The other thing is, if you get the Kindle version, I've never seen as many typos in a book. It's crazy. Honestly, it's like they just did it in one draft and left it. So I would try get the actual book as opposed to the Kindle version. but still, it's really good. As I said, it's not just an investment book. It talks a small bit about like how you can transfer investments over to other aspects of your life, investments in relationship, investments in health, and obviously then business investments as well at the other side of things, and time investments, where you invest your time and your opportunity costs with doing things, how you ask yourself proper questions. And then one of the really interesting principles I picked up from it, and I won't go on too much more about it, but is this idea of inverting. So if you're trying to figure out like if you're trying to get an answer to a difficult question, the easiest thing is invert it and look at it from an opposite way. So if you say how to have, I don't know, a really good example, or an example, a good marriage. Well, an easy way to have a good marriage, invert that. How to have a really bad marriage. And if you look at it that way, be abusive, never be around, always be fighting. You know, it's a lot easier to invert it. Okay, well, if I avoid these, well, then I should be able to make it that bit easier. And you can use this across the board. How to have a good performance. Well, how to have a bad performance. Invert it. You look at, okay, well, have no routine, show up randomly, sleep really poorly, don't drink enough water, be really angry on the day, do 100 things at once, not be focused on the goal at hand. If you invert things, it just makes it a lot easier. It's one of the biggest things I've taken from the book. At the moment, I'm really focused on this idea of like principles-based learning, and I think that's a really helpful one in that situation. Now, I digress to go on to something else. This is another huge one. This is something that I've implemented for the last while. It's phone use in the morning. Okay, I really try to limit the inputs that I have in the morning, and I think reading is a good one. That's outside of that, I try to limit all the rest of them, because I think with phone use, it's a slippery slope. The same way as I talk about drinking more water in the morning, it's a slope that you will drink more water as the day goes on. I find with phone use, if I go on my phone, if I go on Instagram, if I go on TikTok, or if I go answering a load of WhatsApp in the morning, I just get in the habit of checking my phone multiple times throughout the day, which really, really, really affects productivity. And I think it does affect your mental health as well, because you think of so many different things. You're waiting for the next big thing to pop up, and you're always checking your phone for notifications. You're not really living in the present in a lot of ways. You're just waiting for the next thing to reply to or to get onto. And for me, that's something that I'm really trying to avoid, especially as I'm trying to be as productive as I can with work, with learning language, with jiu-jitsu, and trying to get to the gym. I'm trying to be a lot more, how would you say, a lot more like focused with my time. And I think for me, unless I'm posting on Instagram, it really wastes my time. So I try to avoid reels. My God, they made reels really good. They really took that TikTok concept, smashed it in with Instagram, and just made it so effective. Because reels, once you get into one of them, it's so easy to keep watching them. So I just try to avoid that altogether, because as I said, it's an easy barrier to entry and it affects your concentration. So what I do is I limit my phone use till after 9 a.m. and in a lot of cases, I try not to go on it till 11 a.m. And this really pisses some people off, because especially my family who are trying to get in contact with me, or anyway, friends and that who are trying to get in contact with me, a lot of my clients know it. And I tell them that, okay, I'll reply twice a day. With family and stuff, they want you to answer something right now. And I'm just like, well, I'm not on it, so give me a chance. It's not my fault. Well, it is my fault, but it's something that I'm planning to do, so you have to deal with it. I'm sorry. After this, okay, so I leave the phone down. As I know it's coming around to 9 o'clock, I finished up reading. I've kind of boiled the kettle, ready to make my coffee, and I'm coming back to the desk to set up. I tried this thing. It's called Qigong. It's Chinese practice. It's something that I think everybody should try out. If you are wherever you are now, I think you should try it out. Unless you're obviously driving, unless you're stuck in traffic, you could try it in traffic. But otherwise, the idea is that you're trying to liven up your life force, okay, and your vitality. And what you do is you bounce around like what a boxer would. And as you do that, you inhale and you exhale. So and just nice long inhales, nice long exhales, bouncing like a boxer, dropping the shoulders, moving the head over and back, moving your body up and down. I'm doing it here, you probably hear it on the mic. Moving the body up and down, shaking yourself, shaking your hands out. You'll be surprised, once you do it, it's like it livens your chi. So is another way of putting it. But my God, you feel like you have a new life force inside you. Something the Chinese figured out ages ago, and we just dropped it and people forgot about it. But it's such an effective way. Now I am trying to do it more. There's definitely some days that I'm slow to do it, but if I have to, for example, jump on a couple of calls, or if I know I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu, or if I know I'm going to go to the gym, and you know when you're feeling like you have no motivation to do something, you're just a bit lazy, just try this. 2 minutes, jump up, shake it around, shake your arms out, shake your feet out, in long inhales, long exhales, and just see how you feel right after. It is so effective. Like I cannot oversay it enough. Like, it's so effective how good it is. So try it out. Believe me. 2 minutes, wherever you get a chance, bounce around and see if you can shake it out a small bit. What's up, guys? Robbie here. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I just wanted to take a quick moment to ask for your help. Could you please take a minute to leave us a rating on whatever you're listening to this right now? The ratings and reviews mean the world to us, and they help us to understand what you love about the show, as well as what we can improve on. Plus, it does actually help us reach even more listeners again. Thank you so much for your support so far, and we are getting straight back into it right now. Things I haven't been doing, which I wish I was doing a small bit more, would be walking in the morning. That's a big one. I wish I was trying to get out and do a bit of walking, but as I said, it's not really in my routine at the moment. Don't really prioritize it. I think the Qigong gets me up and going enough, so I won't lie and say I'm getting out and doing a 30 or 40 minute walk. I would like to do a bit of meditation. I'm not doing that as much recently. There's definitely times that if I know I get startled with something, or if I get caught, let's say, and I have, I do my work and then I'm going over and I get caught with like looking at messages or looking at reels or something like that, I'll often go over to the couch, sit down and try focus on my breathing a small bit more to try to take back that concentration and focus. But it's not something I have been doing every day, every morning. And breathing is the same thing. I'm just doing this at different times of, let's say, before I go into the gym, before I go into a class, or if I am waking up, if I take a nap in the afternoon and I wake up, try to get my breathing going to try to get my body moving and mix that with the Qigong as well. Things I haven't been doing as much, which I wish I was doing. The other thing is my journaling has definitely taken a hit recently. I'm getting it in a couple of times a week, but I'm better now at journaling if I have a question posed there. Like, I left a question in my journal for like, I'd say about a week and a half or 2 weeks, possibly more, that I just left it there and I went on and I was using other pages because I was like, I want to come back and answer this question, but I just don't feel like I have the mental capacity to do it right now. I just didn't feel like I was in the right frame of mind. And when the couple of weeks had passed, then I came back to it. And I think that was it's a really effective and interesting method, is to write a question for yourself, leave it, and then come back to it at another time. It's like your subconscious goes in and figures it out. If you go and write a question and try answer it straight away, as opposed to if you write a question, leave it, and then come back to it, it's really, it's a funny, you have a different way of looking at it. You're a lot more less emotionally engaged in it. And you can give yourself a clearer answer. Not journaling as much as I should be, still getting it in a couple of times a week, depending on my mood as well. If I had an episode last week, I said an episode like as if it was a mental episode. No, it wasn't. I had an episode last week that I was feeling, and I mentioned this in a podcast previously, that I was definitely feeling a bit jumbled. I kind of felt like my head was all over the place. Popped out the journal, just started writing things down. It was like a gift from God. It just cleared my head. And I felt so much better after it. With the journaling, it is really effective, and I feel like I lean on it more when I need to, which I probably should get in a better habit of doing it. But I won't lie and say I'm doing it every day. I've been talking about my morning routine as it is. When it fits in, it does, and sometimes it fits in after lunch. I finish my routine, and this, for anyone who works for themselves, or anyone who at all, if you're working from home at the moment, because I know obviously, let's not lie, anyone that's working from home at the moment is getting the jobs done, and then they're probably finishing up. They're not doing their 9 to 5 as normal. They might be logged on, and I know this because I'm talking to a lot of people who are doing it and working with a lot of people who are working from home. Once you get your projects done and the main things done, you have that free time, and I think that's it's a great thing. I think it's the way work should be for people anyway. I think the idea of just having to stay clocked in 9 to 5 is not as good as it's not as an effective method for productivity. So this one could work for you as well. What I do is I do this deep work phase from 9 o'clock till 12. Once it hits 9 o'clock, if I have to reply to people or something was urgent that came up on my phone, I often tell people to reply to me and start it with urgent so I can get to it straight away. I will set a timer. I started with 3 hours. I've probably been doing it more 2 hours now. I've fallen back on the 2 hour mark a bit more. Set a timer on my phone, put my phone aside, and then I just work for 2 hours with no distractions. I just sit down, I focus, and I get things done. This is one of the most effective methods for productivity because it takes around about 15 to 20 minutes to get into this deep work phase. But once you're locked in, you're locked in. There's no two ways about it. You feel like you have the concentration of a Buddhist monk who's been meditating on the mountain for the last 6 weeks. It's crazy. This idea of deep work, anyone who wants to look into it more, it's Cal Newport. He wrote a book on it, but it goes into a lot of detail of how your brain takes certain periods of time to get into different states of mind. And when you put everything away and all distractions, you get into this creative state of mind that all of the best minds in the world are able to use. The likes of Einstein, Sigmund Freud, people who have an area that they, outside of their house, which I just don't have the opportunity to have right now, and they go in, you set your timer, and then you just focus and work. And the amount of work that you get done is crazy compared to the amount that you would usually. So I usually do that for 2 to 3 hours. As I said, I've been bordering on 2 more so than 3 recently, and I find that it's excellent for creative work and excellent for getting things done. Now, just as extras on top of that, that's my morning routine. That's the basis of it. Nothing too crazy, nothing you can't do yourself if you want to try these. I'd be interested in hearing what yours are too. Like, I know there's so many different ways you can do it. Ice baths and saunas, and people go for silent retreats and they do their meditation and they do their breathing exercises and they do yoga or they do mobility and movement. They do whatever. They go and do strength training, sauna, whatever it is, grand. But these are the ones that work for me, and I can do them all in the space of the apartment that I'm in, and I don't really have any issue getting it in. And it's if one flows into the next very easily. But if there's a couple of things, I would honestly say if you're able to avoid your phone as early as possible in the morning, if you can just do that alone, the power that you have from doing that is crazy, because you're not connected. It's not your phone driving you throughout the day anymore. You have a lot more control over your day. And that's a huge one. It's a huge takeaway if you can do that. Extra ones, as I said, if you have a journal question that you write out the night before, just write a question top of your journal the night before. When you get up the next morning, then you answer it. It's a technique you often hear me talk about with Hemingway. He did it before where he would write a question, he'd answer it the next day, and the idea is that your subconscious picks up on it. Josh Waitzkin talks about it a lot as well. He's a super learner, very interesting guy. Not that many videos on him. He wrote the book The Art of Learning. But Josh Waitzkin is his name. Very, very interesting though. He's a chess master. And as I said, I might do it and then I will leave it. Sometimes it takes me a week to come back and answer that question. Other ones then would be to make your bed in the morning. I really like that. It's actually something that I do every morning. I know a lot of people talk about, oh, it's a crazy one to do. I just like it. I think it sets me up for the day a bit more. And it's not that I go in and make it perfectly. I literally just pull the blankets up. So I think that one's a very good one for kind of clearing your mind and not having a messy room. I often do out my to-do list the night before, where I lay out 2 to 3 things that I have to get done the next day. Very, very powerful one for me too, because I know leading into the next day, I know when I'm reading, I know when I'm moving from outside to inside and I'm coming back and doing my Qigong, when I sit down, what I have to do straight away. And that's a huge one. It really helps. It just takes that extra 10 or 15 minutes to start to make a plan of what to do. And then when I get into my deep work phase, I know what I have to tick off. To-do lists aren't for everybody, but they work really well for me. And the last one, very simple one, I just leave my clothes out. It's one less thing to think about in the morning. So I often just, for me as well, where I am right now, when I say lay my clothes out, I literally just leave a pair of shorts out because I just go around with a shirt off all the time because it's warm enough at the moment. Leave my shorts out, jump up, pop them on, and it's one more thing that I can just make one less decision and get into the swing of things straight away. But that's all of them. There's nothing too crazy there, nothing you can't do yourself. Try them out and let me know how you get on with them. I would actually love to hear what your morning routine is, what you do consistently, not what you do on the best days when everything goes right. I could tell you about my best days when everything goes right, but I wanted to be honest about what I'm actually doing on a morning, on a day-to-day basis. Wake up 7 to 8, get your water in, wait to get your coffee in afterwards, try get a bit of sunlight where you're just standing outside, limit your inputs as much as possible. I like to read for 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes it goes on a bit longer, and I switch between 2 different books. And phone use is the biggest one. Try to limit it as much as possible. For me, Instagram is a no-go until after 9, but often I won't do it until after my phase of deep work. Other ones are your Qigong, journaling, meditation or breathing at times. I don't really do it as much now. Finishing my morning with that deep work phase, and obviously like making the bed, having my to-do list and laying my clothes out. They were the basis of them. Hopefully you have a better understanding, or you've a few more options of things that you can do. Really, with morning routines, it's what works best for you. So I would say try out a few different things. What you feel flows right, just because someone else said it. Like that's what I'm talking about with the walks and with all that. The walk just doesn't do it for me right now. I probably would enjoy it more if I had like a little dog or something like that to go out for a walk. But because where I am in the city right now, it's not as appealing for me to go out and go for a walk. Some mornings I will go out and walk to a cafe and get it, but it's not something I do every day. Exercise, I haven't been doing it in the morning because I exercise at 1 o'clock, or I exercise in the evening in the gym. And stretching and doing yoga or doing mobility, I haven't been doing that as much recently. I do it in the gym more so. That's the time that I do it at the moment. But that's everything from me today. Hopefully now you're able to take a few of those and implement them. As I said, get onto me on Instagram at Mobility Tutor and let me know what your routines are and what you do on a day-to-day. Be really interested to see what they are and see if you do anything weird or wacky. Everyone has their own little thing, so I'm always curious to hear them. Otherwise, that is all from me for this week, and I will chat to you all again next Sunday. Have a good one. Okay guys, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're looking to learn more about what we do, as well as check out any of the mobility and rehab programs we have available, just head over to the description of this podcast and you will find a link to all the programs there. As always, thank you for listening, and I will chat to you all again in the next episode. Have a good one.